The final of these obstacles is what I call the ego. And I don't need to spend a whole lot of time on this because we've talked about it already. But I want to share with you what the ego is. And again, remember, it has those 6 components. The belief system, I am what I have, what I do, what others think of me. I'm separate from everyone else. I'm separate from God, and I'm separate from what is missing in my life. It's like what we want to do is see what we can do about reducing the influence of the ego. And I'm going to give you 7 pointers on that, and then we're going to close out for today. But listen to these words, defining the weaknesses of the ego. An observation in the Course in Miracles. You've heard me describe what it is. And it is a major obstacle to your connecting to intention. A major obstacle. In fact, it is the obstacle because it is an illusion. This fragment of your mind, says the Course, is such a tiny part of it that could you but appreciate the whole, you would see instantly that it is like the smallest sunbeam to the sun, or like the faintest ripple on the surface of the ocean. In its amazing arrogance, this tiny sunbeam has decided that it is the sun. This almost imperceptible ripple hails itself as the ocean. Think how alone and frightened is this little thought, this infinitesimally small illusion, holding itself apart against the universe. Do not accept this little fenced-off aspect of yourself as yourself. The sun and the ocean are as nothing beside what you are. Isn't that beautiful? That's, of course, speaking on the ego. Like this little tiny sunbeam, in contrast with the sun, declares itself to be the sun. And this little ripple on the ocean declares itself as the ocean itself. That's the ego talking. And here's what it suggests on how to rid yourself of it. If you will lay aside the ego's voice, however loudly it may seem to call, if you will not accept its petty gifts that give you nothing that you really want, if you will listen with an open mind that has not told you what salvation is, then you will hear the mighty voice of truth, quiet in power, strong in stillness, and completely certain in its messages. Completely certain in its messages. The ego has a very strong grip on us. As much as our self-talk and our energy system keeps us from connecting to intention, our ego is constantly telling us, don't buy this. In fact, as you're listening to this right now, it's telling you, be very cautious about this. You know, there's a lot of stuff in there that really isn't true, and there's an endless stream of reasons why you shouldn't really buy into this. The ego's a very strong combatant. But I have just sort of outlined the 7 things that I think we need to do, and they're very brief. Here's what we do to overcome the impact of ego as the 3rd obstacle to connecting to intention. 1, stop being offended. Stop being offended. The person who is connected to Source doesn't know how to be offended. And there are people in the world who are constantly looking for occasions to be offended. And you hardly ever disappoint yourself. People who are looking for reasons why things are not right. I love this story about people who are constantly looking for reasons to be offended. A New York woman was at her East Side hairdresser's getting her hair styled prior to a trip to Rome with her boyfriend. She mentioned the trip to the hairdresser, who responded, "Rome? Why would anyone want to go to Rome? It's crowded, it's dirty, and worse yet, it's full of Italians. You're crazy to go to Rome. So how are you going to get there?" "Well, we're flying on Continental Airlines," was the reply. "We got a great rate." Continental? It's a terrible airline. Their planes are old, their flight attendants are ugly, and they're always late. So where are you going to stay while you're in Rome? Well, we'll be at this exclusive little place over on Rome's left side called Teste. Don't go any further. I know that place. Everybody thinks it's going to be something special and exclusive, but it's really a dump. It's the worst hotel in the whole city. The rooms are small, the service is surly, and they're way, way overpriced. So what are you going to do when you get there? Well, we're going to go see the Vatican, and hopefully we're going to see the Pope. Yeah, right. You and a million other people trying to see him. He'll look like the size of an ant. Boy, good luck on this lousy trip of yours. You're sure going to need it. You ever meet people like this? So a month later, the woman comes back for her hair appointment. The hairdresser asked her about her trip. All smiles, she said it was absolutely wonderful. Not only did we arrive on time in a brand new jet, but it was overbooked, and they bumped us up to first class. The food and the wine were wonderful. I had a handsome 28-year-old steward who waited on me hand and foot. And the hotel, fabulous. They just finished a $5 million remodeling job, and now it's a jewel, the finest hotel in the city. They, too, were overbooked, so they apologized and gave us their owner's suite at no extra charge. Well, said the hairdresser, I know you didn't get to see the Pope. Well, she said, that's the weirdest part of all. Actually, we were quite lucky, for as we toured the Vatican, a Swiss guard tapped me on the shoulder and explained that the Pope likes to personally meet some of the visitors. If I'd just be so kind as to step into his private room and wait, the Pope would personally greet me. Well, sure enough, 5 minutes later, the Holy Father himself walked through the door and shook my hand. And I knelt down, and he spoke a few words to me. It was so wonderful. Really, said the hairdresser. Well, what did he say? Oh, he said, where'd you get that lousy hairdo? Don't look for occasions to be offended. And don't ever allow yourself to be offended. Being offended is a weakness of the ego. And you can find all kinds of reasons, and right here in this room. I mean, some of you, the way you dress to come to an event like this, it's really disgusting. And that hair of yours, please. I mean, you can do a lot better than that, you know? And those colors, they don't match at all. And that jewelry, I don't know what you were thinking, you know? It's like, and you hear people go through their life doing exactly this, always finding reasons to be offended. 2, let go of your need to win. Let go of the need to win. Letting go of the need to win is really it's a huge obsession in our country and in our world. The idea that if I get more points than you do, not only am I better, and not only are you a loser, but it makes me more important. Somehow we've got this belief system in the ego. But the problem with the ego and defeating others and having to win is that your performance or somebody else's performance determines whether or not you feel worthy or not. And always that's giving up your power. 3, let go of your need to be right. Just let go of it. Do you know how many arguments could be saved in marriages if you just let go of your need to be right? You know, that's a good point. I never thought of it before. Thanks. I'll give it some thought. I appreciate it. What a way to respond instead of, what are you talking about? You don't even know what you're saying. Now, how can, and you hear, and I see I can see it when I meet people. 5 minutes having dinner with them, 5 minutes, I can see this need to be right, the need to win and to make someone else wrong continuously. And it's going on all the time over nothing, over just trivial little things. Like he said this, no, he said that. It's like it's really important whether he said this or whether he said that. It was $25. It wasn't. It was $24. I remember specifically it was only $24. No, it was $25. No, it was $24. You never get anything right. On we go with trivialities. I'm in that situation, said, whatever it was, it's okay. Just let go of your need to be right. It's those words that I talked about earlier in one of my earlier programs. All you have to do is say these words. You're right about that. Boy, I'll tell you, it just ends so many struggles and so many difficulties. Good point. You're right about that. 4, let go of your need to be superior. Let go of your need to be better than someone else. You came from a source of energy that is expressive and expansive and receptive to all. That was the source from which you emanated. Anytime you take on the belief system that you are better than somebody else. See, true nobility is not about being better than anybody else. It's about being better than you used to be. Just being better than you used to be. And I can say that standing up here in front of you today, that I'm not better than one person here in this room, but I'm better than I used to be in virtually every dimension of my life. As a father, as a mate, as a teacher, as a human being. I know that I'm better than I used to be. I even made an apology in this book, Power of Intention. Many years ago, I wrote a book called Pulling Your Own Strings, back in 1977. I made a statement in there that I thought was cute. I said, when you want to return something, if you want to be victimized, don't go to a clerk, because a clerk is a jerk. And I thought it was a cute little phrase, and I didn't really mean the person themselves was a jerk. I really meant that the person that is the clerk cannot get it done for you if you want to exchange it or whatever. Go to someone who has authority. But I said it in those terms. And I apologized then, and I apologize now to anybody in the world who is a clerk, which I spent a lot of years being in my own life on my way to where I am now. And I'm still a clerk in many ways. When you have 8 children, you do a lot of clerking. All right? But today I wouldn't know how to make a comment like that. Today it wouldn't be the beingness, the source of my thoughts, because it's not really about positive thinking. It's more about where do these thoughts originate? And my source of being would not allow me to make such a statement. I'm better than I used to be in virtually every dimension of my life. And I think it's important for you to remember that, to stop thinking of yourself as better than or superior. And it's, again, one of the reasons I have such a struggle with this idea that ridding the world of dictators is worth having a whole bunch of people killed in order to get rid of a dictator. And I always wonder about, why is that one little private who was killed this day and blown up, why is that considered to be better than having this dictator on the planet? Isn't that person's life just as valuable and just as important? And I watch, the people with the bodyguards, and I watch the long lines of people with, wanting to get autographs from those who are in positions of leadership or in positions of just being noticed, celebrities of all kinds. And remind myself always that there's not one person out there that's any better than anyone else. I remember Gandhi suggesting that the person lays the robe down so that he didn't have to step on the dirt, or on the mud rather. Man laid his cape down so that he didn't get his feet wet. He said, no, you are just as important a being as I am. No one is superior to anyone else. It's something that if we remembered that, then we wouldn't be so willing to sacrifice other people's, particularly their lives. Give up your need to have more. The mantra of the ego is more. I never have enough. The mantra of the higher self. See, the higher part of you, the part of you that's connected to Source, only wants one thing. It just wants you to be at peace. That's all it wants. The part of you that wants more, that demands more, that believes that if you don't have more, you're not going to be successful, you're not going to be happy, is the part of the ego that keeps you from being connected to your Source. Number 6, let go of identifying yourself on the basis of your achievements. You are not what you achieve. You are divine. You are the Source, a piece of the Source. And finally, let go of identifying yourself on the basis of your reputation. You are not your reputation. You are not what others think of you. If I get up there and give a talk in front of 1,000 people, I have 1,000 reputations. And there's absolutely nothing that I can do to change that. My reputation is not located in me. It's located outside of me. The only thing I can be responsible for is my character and my connection to God. And as long as I can suspend that ego and stay connected to this source of all that is, then the ego and the energy systems and the self-talk